Mao Mao, Heroes of Pure Heart, is a show that you would expect to be yet another comedic series on a TV network already saturated with comedies. Yet it's probably the most well-rounded show on Cartoon Network that's still airing, at least when it does air. This show, unlike its peers, does not veer into the scenario-focused comedy like Teen Titans Go, nor does it fall into the plot-induced pacing and message problems that Steven Universe fell into around Season 4. This is because Mao Mao Heroes of Pure Heart focuses on character first and foremost, then the episode scenarios. While the series itself favors a more episodic format, there are elements that do hint at a thread of continuity for the series, which we will bring up as we look at all the characters and their designs. The Sheriff of Pure Heart Valley is none other than Mao Mao himself. He is a total tryhard, and his character design utterly screams it. To compare it to characters like Ranga the Blood Edge, yeah, that's an actual name, is not exactly a poor comparison.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
How about you shut up before I give you another hole to breathe out of?
They both have primarily red and black color palettes, which, for those not familiar with my videos, know that these colors are frequently used for villains or anti-hero. And to an extent, the latter applies to Mao Mao. He's an anti-hero not because of his actions, but rather motivation. He does not perform heroic tasks out of some desire to do good because he was raised right, quite the contrary. In his youth, he was always overlooked by his father, who doted on his sisters. He seeks out glory and fame in hopes of getting the recognition that he was denied for all these years. This desire for renown is what leads him to become Sheriff of Pure Heart Valley, and to enforce the town's laws with a zeal that is matched only by Judge Dredd. While he does have a few alternate designs that are used for flashbacks, there is one outfit that truly reflects his desire to be loved by others. Stephen Mao!
Pow pow!
That's not my baby!
Stylish.
Badger Clops is a good foil to Mao Mao, both narratively and visually. His rotund body and neutral color palette contrast well against Mao's intense complementary scheme and nimble yet short body. He's also far more laid back than Mao Mao, enjoying the relative peacefulness of Pure Heart Valley, along with the sweets, of course. More often than not, he will be the voice of reason in an episode, often trying to rein in his rash friend, though he is not without his own flaws. He's often quite lazy, and because of it, he seldom is the one to actually solve issues. Heck, there were a few times he even caused some of them. Thankfully, he is far more endearing than irritating. It should also be noted that he was a thief before joining up with Mao Mao, and sometimes that past catches up with him. When it comes to alternate designs, all we really have is the pilot design, which is a bear instead of a badger. Now, before we get to Adora, we should probably address the residents of Pure Heart Valley in order to get some context for her environment. The valley's inhabitants are called the Sweetie Pies. They are very simplistic, both visually and character-wise. Most of them have an analogous or even a monochrome palette, and like 1 to 2 character traits, at most. And they have very, very little in the way of depth. But they don't need to have that, because that's not why they're here. They provide a bit of contrast against the main characters as a whole. They are sort of a stand-in for the fangless kitty cartoon like the Care Bears or pre-Friendship is Magic My Little Pony. With the exception being Pinky, who is just pure evil.
Bravo.
So where does this leave Adora? She already stands out visually due to her having a complementary scheme of blue and yellow, but there's one thing about her design that really sticks out: her peg leg. That's a very interesting detail, because prior to Mao Mao's arrival, the valley was protected by the Ruby Pure Heart. That really begs the question on just what happened to this young kid to give her that injury. Another thing I really like about her is her relationship with Mao Mao, mainly because it's probably the best mentor and apprentice dynamic since probably Iroh and Zuko. And even then, from a functional standpoint, I think it's even better than that. Let me explain. The vast majority of the time, this whole mentor dynamic tends to favor one side. Either the typical mentor that teaches the student who develops as a character, or the mentor that tries to teach the student but ultimately learns something instead. This relationship is more reciprocal, where, depending on the episode, one will learn something from the other. You see, Adora really looks up to Mao Mao, because he represents the ideal adventurer to her. He is brave, bold, and lives a life full of excitement, and she really wants that, having lived in the Pure Heart Valley, which, again, pretty dang peaceful, like, there isn't much conflict there. Whereas Mao Mao sees her as somebody who genuinely admires him, something that was utterly absent from his life. Because of this relationship, Mao Mao wants to be that hero that she sees in him, pushing himself to be a better person, while she wants to learn how to be an adventurer. Because of these desires, they learn from each other. Sometimes Adora will learn something useful from Mao about being a hero. Other times he will have to learn how to set aside his ego to be the hero to her. Sure, she may be a little bit irritating and shout a whole lot, but she's probably the second most important character in the show.
Alright.
King Knuckle Magna is pretty much exactly what you see on the tin. He's an incredibly flamboyant king that rules the Pure Heart Valley. The most notable thing about his base design is just how well arranged his color scheme is. Look, we've got light red hair, purple cloak with white fur trim, his crown with a pink heart on it, sky blue pants that have yellow, probably gold accents, all of which is tied together by his sandy fur. Also take note the heart motif in his face, nose, and cape. It's actually rather well designed for being a secondary character. Though this is probably because he is a bit more involved than the average sweetie pie, as he will sometimes be the one to ask Mao Mao for help. Other times he may even be the antagonist of the episode. Also, he has some really good alternate outfits to boot. My goodness, they're really good.
Awesome.
The main villains of the show are a band of sky pirates that are after the Ruby Pure Heart. Most of them are fairly serviceable designs, each being based around a pun that usually has something to do with their features. Though the one I really want to talk about is a Ranga Snake, the leader of the Sky Pirates. As the name points out, he's not simply an animal that's taken on some cybernetic enhancements. In actuality, he's a snake, named Kobe, that's wrapped around an orangutan named Tanner. Their outfit does give them an intimidating silhouette, but the color palette is rather comical, opting for violet, orange, and green. Ugh. Which are anything but imposing. Though this is likely intentional, as they are often played off as being completely ineffectual. However, they do occasionally pose a threat to the team, either by exploiting some group tensions that were brewing throughout the episode, or by getting them off guard. Overall, he's an okay antagonist.
Brutal.
Bao Bao is a very peculiar character, insofar as that he's really just a dog. A non-anthropomorphic dog in a world full of anthropomorphized animals. This is mostly due to the main twist of the episode, Bao Bao's Revenge, in that Mao Mao had a very distorted view of the dog after a horrid accident that resulted in the loss of his tail. While Bao Bao is a very simple character, he does provide a better look on how the tragic incident shaped Mao Mao into who he is today.
Awesome.
Tanya Keys is a Tanuki bounty hunter that used to be a friend of Mao Mao. Her design may seem simple, but that actually betrays just how clever it is, because she is the true foil to Mao Mao. She is far more lax with things like rules and honor, and her lighter, more pastel-based palettes of cherry brown and light green also contrasts very starkly with Mao's extreme colors of red and black. Yet they both have similar eyes, with Tanya's being turquoise while his are green. This likely symbolizes their shared desire to do good in the world. The thing is that they disagree in methodology. Tanya, true to her species' association with being tricksters, prefers more deceptive and underhanded methods. Plus, she's far more playful than the straight-laced Mao Mao. This disagreement is probably why they begin their episode with a very fractured relationship. Thankfully, by the end of that episode, they do manage to settle this, with Mao Mao resolving to not be utterly beholden to the rule of law. I am really hoping she shows up in more episodes because she is just a very enjoyable character to have around.
Almighty.
Rufus and Reggie are a pair of con men that preyed upon the Sweetie Pie's good nature with their bogus holiday, Takesgiving. This little scenario was more of a lesson for Adora, and that she should not be so trusty and remain vigilant of scams like Takesgiving. As for their visual design, they are both animals that are associated with tricksters, the fox and the raccoon respectively. Rufus, being the leader of the group, has a very dapper outfit, which reflects his charismatic nature. He wears a white suit with a teal scarf that contrasts well with his light red fur. Reggie, on the other hand, wears only a scarf that matches Rufus's. This likely denotes his position as a mere henchman to Rufus. The interesting thing about their episode, Outfoxed, is that once Adora realizes she's been lied to, she emulates her hero and lashes out with righteous fury. Interesting designs, but these two are mostly just one-off villains.
Brutal.
For those who have made it this far, I congratulate you. And while you're at it, please, I would really appreciate if you like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications on this channel because I do like to get feedback on these videos. That said, I know exactly why you've been waiting this long, and I do intend to deliver on that character that you've been anticipating. Shin Mao. There is no character more important to Mao Mao's characterization than him. While Adora is the one who pushes Mao Mao forward, Shin Mao is the source of his motivation. So what about the character himself? Shin Mao is an old cat in a massive suit of golden armor with a billowing red cape, almost reminiscent of the Emperor of Mankind. Though, in order to fully discuss him, we must go over some spoilers for the episode Small. For in that episode, he visits Pureheart Valley and basically puts down everything about his son's place, even the villains. This infuriates Mao Mao to no end. In a fit of rage and frustration, Mao Mao accidentally awakens a dragon that was sleeping nearby. The creature attacks the valley, Shin Mao attempts to fell the beast only to get knocked out of his suit, revealing that he's actually about the same size as Mao Mao. Our hero fells the beast with a flourish and sets his father back in the armor, apologizing about what happened. Shin Mao, taken aback, begins to realize what he's done and reassures his son that he's not small. Now, in any other show, this would be something done much later, probably towards the end of the series. But in truth, this seems more like the start of a new page in their relationship. It leaves more doors open than actually closes them. After all, we've yet to meet any of Mao Mao's sisters. I hope that we can get some episodes featuring them as well. As it stands, Shin Mao is a very interesting character, and I do hope we get some more of him later on.
Awesome.
I'm not usually one for episodic shows like Mao Mao, mainly due to how, more often than not, things like character progression just get tossed to the wayside for the sake of comedy, or because the show's creator didn't want to put in the time and effort to keep track of things. I ain't naming names, but they know who they are. Mao Mao is something of a breath of fresh air on Cartoon Network, which has been filled to the brim with reboots and reruns of shows that don't put that much care into characterization in comparison to how Mao Mao handles things. it has constructed a strong web of character dynamics and relationships. I just wish the network gave it some more runtime here. Seriously, look at the schedule. It's hardly on there.
Next time on Design Dungeon.
Hey, looking good, dude! Are you sure? You sure it's not too much? Looks like too little to me, dude.